I've been working hard on it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So today we're going to be talking about how to not feel desperate on a date, because I think a lot of people do. They feel desperate because they're lonely. They feel desperate because they haven't been
the,
dating anybody for a while, and they feel desperate because they don't know what the heck they're doing. You had a comment, Barry?
yes, because the title is not to appear desperate, not so much how to
Yes.
feel. But we'll get to both. Just want to say that interesting you said that. So it's like we're going to cover both. Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment.
Yes. You don't want to look desperate or feel desperate. How about that? Because if you feel it, you might really, that might be a for sure thing that you'll look at.
Yeah.
Welcome to the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. So,
Yeah, boy, it sets you up for, I think, potentially most of the time, not a good experience if you show up at a date looking desperate, acting desperate, appearing desperate, saying words that make you appear desperate to other people. I think it could be very off-putting for the majority of the population that's out there dating. What do you think?
well, the challenge is, frankly, that a lot of people go on dates because they are somewhat desperate to find love finally, to find a partner finally, not desperate for sex, but desperate for connection, desperate for something real. So I want to qualify how we talk about this, because in some ways, some people are so fed up with the date experiences they've had, they may feel like they're desperate because there's so little choice out there they can base it on. But the thing we're talking about here, really, it is, and it's interesting because I said at the beginning about how it said the title was about how not to appear desperate, and you saying how not to feel desperate. Really, they are one and the same in intent, because if you feel desperate, you're going to look desperate. So how to not appear desperate is not to feel desperate. And so we're going to get into that conversation.
And I know they've mentioned this before, but I sure do hear it a lot, that people will say to me so seriously, I really want to be in a relationship. I want to feel loved. I want to love somebody. I want somebody to do something with. I want somebody to come home to, somebody that cares that I came home, that has my back, that wants to hear about my day. And I really just as intensely don't want to date. And so often when they approach a date with that attitude, they do feel fed up and frustrated, and because it hasn't worked smoothly before, or they just are feeling at wit's end, and they've been single a really long time and they haven't had any good dates, or they recently broke up with somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this again. And those are very real, understandable feelings for a human being, because generally most of us like to have some sort of a connection, with friends or family or activities or ways that we feel needed in our job or volunteering. And then there's that piece, that romantic place where somebody really sees into you, where Barry and I talk about the intimacy word can be broken up into me see. And
Right.
that's the very core of feeling intimate with someone, where you can talk about anything and everything and feel like you really are okay with the other person and safe with the other person. And when you haven't had it for a while, or you keep not finding it anywhere in any part of your life, it could make you start feeling quite desperate, I would think.
That is unfortunately the challenge people face oftentimes, is because they feel the clock ticking, so to speak. They feel that energy they've used up, the number of dates they've been on, the number of experiences they've had that didn't work out, how frankly disconcerting it can feel. And so yeah, that's where the desperation can feel like it's present, because you're just like, I'm so tired and sick and tired of having to put up with these blah blah blah, And yes, we do in our talks often talk about how to be fresh and how to renew yourself and how to get Tuesdays more consciously. But it is a sense for some people that they come from a place where they really are done with that game, and they want to find someone real, someone authentic, or someone they can be with and be done with the dating experience. Absolutely.
And I think too, to that vein, what happens too is that you mentioned about the clock, and when we were younger, we had a biological clock to reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think, not to be morbid, it's the facts of life. How much more time do we really have to be alive in this body? And what kind of experiences do we want to have between now, as Dr. Laura says, between now and dead? How do you want to live? So I think that that's making people feel even more anxious and more desperate and more concerned about how much time do I have left, and what am I doing this right or wrong, or why isn't this happening? And there's a interesting commercial out there. It says, when you're not in love, all you see is people in love and love songs and movies and people, holding hands, walking around. And I think that that could also cause us to start feeling desperate. Then we think, oh, everybody else is doing this and I'm not. What's wrong with me?
I remember when I was younger, I figured this out actually over a period of time, is that every woman I was attracted to who looked happy, who looked fulfilled, who looked really joyful, there was something in the space, was already in a relationship. And so I know that there's different energy between, and it's true for both genders, to be clear, but my experience being a man looking at women is that women who are in a relationship tended to appear more fulfilled, more whole, more happy, more attractive than ones who weren't. And now I'm working in my work, of course, helping women be more attractive when they're single too, but in terms of how the energetics. But the reality is the desperation is not attractive. So how do we, which we're going to talk about, become comfortable in our own skin, at peace with our choices, and more centered, so when we go on dates, we don't have any desire to be desperate or needy, and we don't put out the energy either, because that's really what it comes down to, is that our dating structure we play in with the dating apps now more than the dating sites, it's so easy to keep swiping and swiping and looking and looking that after a while it can get tiring. And so the desire to be in love can get worn down because the need is completely unfulfilled so many times. It was like, this is a bad choice, this is a bad choice, and the repeat cycles you go through. Even when you go on the dates and you go, not what I want, it can start to wear on you, understandably. So the question then becomes, how do you maintain your own self throughout the journey? Because it's not an easy one, absolutely, as you cited there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how do we build up our resilience? It was funny when you talked about how so many of the really happy women were in relationships. And before I became a coach, it'll be 16 years next month. I owned an event production company for 25 years, and a third of my business was weddings. And I'd constantly hear from my brides that now they had a ring on their finger saying they're taken and engaged, and they had so many men flirting with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it was the happy,
Yeah.
In love and planning a wedding, and there's all these pheromones coming out of their pores. And I would tease them about that. I said, I think it's just because you're so darn effervescent and glowing. It's so attractive to men. Before I even had studied this much of it to know that that really is a chemical reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think the biggest challenge that you and I will talk about is, how do you stay resilient? How do you stay upright, throughout the process, taking a break, when you're actively doing it? How do you not get discouraged, which is what leads to be desperate, I think.
Yeah. And that is the choice, ultimately, is how do you want to appear on dates? Because the thing is, the question comes up a lot of times with clients is about, how do they approach dates? How do they go on dates in a way that is open to possibility in a good way, rather than being open to being disappointed? Big challenge.
Yep. So we're going to go back to the basics of who are you and why are you a catch? If you build up your own self-confidence and your own self-worth, then when somebody is in a match, it doesn't feel like such a personal blow. Because I think when you give the power to the other person of, I'm only a whole person if they want to ask me out a second time, I'm only a whole person if our conversation is good. We do need to own our part of it and work on our part. There really are still two people sitting at the table, and you don't need to carry the whole heavy part of the load. So getting clear about what you would contribute to a conversation, what you would ultimately contribute to a relationship, brings you into the meeting feeling very confident, not arrogant, self-assured. right? Don't you love that as a guy when you have a woman sit across the table from you that look at you, that she knows who she is, she knows what she's looking for, and she says it in an eloquent, feminine, kind way.
That's check on my list. But that's the thing also, it's interesting because there's this assumption that we have to be on our best behavior when we go on a date. In the old days, it was like, I mean, the old days, because I coach against this now, but in the old days, like you go on the first date, it'd be the evening, it'd be like elegant restaurant, you dress up fine, the guy's in a suit. I mean, this is that's the old-fashioned way of doing it. And it was also best behavior. Even now, it's more casual. It's still on best behavior because it's like we don't do things. The reason I'm saying that is because I was talking to one of my mentors earlier today, and she's talking about her relationship with her partner, and how she said that, and I'm paraphrasing now, but when they went on I think it was like second date they went on, and they went to this restaurant, and he said to her something on the lines of, would you, it was basically on the negative side, meaning that is like, are we willing to share our withholds or our negative habits, sort of thing, like really in the relationship? And that for her was a sign that he was the one for her. Now, I'm not saying it's true for everybody, but saying that was the thing, is that you to do something different, because the thing is, we've been told being on best behavior. Well, what if you brought to the conversation what was really true for you about something or other? Maybe it's about your life or about your partnership or experience, or what you want, because that's a whole conversation we talked before about red flags and green flags. But also, it changes the paradigm of the conversation. It's no longer the stuff like, how's the weather? What's your sign? All that sort of traditional useless stuff. It's like, what's it has impact? I love talking to people. And it's like, one of my favorite things to talk to people is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Talking to adults about it, because it's fun to do. But on a date, it's fun as well, because it gives your date something to think about and talk about, rather than just the generic stuff about, well, I was born here and I lived here and my job's this. And it's like, no, what's really important? That's how you get out of the desperation, but also how you find someone you want to be with,
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think it's really important. So one of the things I always ask is, what was the most interesting or unusual or new thing you learned in the last week or the last month? I've learned all sorts of interesting things from people that they had learned.
Yeah.
And then I get to share mine about the thing, because I'm such a researcher. I love learning new things. And so not only do you get to see how enthusiastic they are about it, but what sort of area was it of interest to them? And is that something that you could ask more questions about? Or, wow, I know nothing about that, please tell me. And you can learn so much if you listen to learn. Because one of the challenges, well, do I like that? Do I agree with that? If we put that on the back burner in the beginning and just listen to learn who about them and what response could we do that could be enthusiastic back, it can make you get out of yourself. Because I think a lot of what happens with the desperation is we're so busy, oh gosh, I said the wrong thing, or oh, did I wear the right clothes, or oh my gosh, I spilled something, that I think that we get too internal, where if you're thinking more about what's this person interested in, and what kinds of conversation would they be willing to have with you, like the one about, here's one of my I clip my toenails in bed, or some weird thing like that, right?
Whatever it is.
Whatever the thing is, that you just go, well, this is part of who I am, and you see if the other person is horrified or laughs. But how fun to just be kind of transparent, right?
It is one way of scaring away the ones you don't want to be with you very quickly.
Yeah, very good vetting tool for sure.
But it is a sense that it's real. That's one of the things that dating is important, and it's even, and let's say it this way: if you go on a date and you're feeling desperate, it's actually better to actually tell the person that's what you're feeling, rather than trying to hide it, because when you hide it, they'll see it anyway. So by putting it in the open, it opens up the conversation, because it can really create a connection if that's something you want. I mean, obviously, if the person you're meeting you don't want to be with at all, don't even bother. But the thing is, if you meet somebody and you're concerned that they're going to feel that energy coming from you, own it before they do. Speak the truth. Tell them what you feel. Because, first of all, they may have a common experience with you, which means you're in the same boat, which is great. Or they may simply say, it's like, I've been there, but I've gotten through it because I did this, this, and this. And you say, great, thank you for teaching me. So there's lessons to be learned. There's ways of doing it. So being honest always is, for me, the best policy in this conversation. So this one's another reason why, even when it feels bad to say, I don't want them to know that I feel desperate or I'm appearing desperate, say it, talk about it, speak it, so it doesn't have the power over you anymore.
It's really freeing.
Yeah.
And you also get a chance to see the other person's reaction. And you do get a chance to see how you feel saying it. Because when you're honest, it leaves the other person not guessing, because we will guess, especially women. We're trying to figure out what's going on the other side of the table all the time. And I'm going to tell you, we're not 100% at what we guess. So at least say out loud what it is so that the person goes, oh, I now understand it's not me. You're not uncomfortable with me. Because I think a lot of the times that's where we'll go. So if you say, oh my gosh, I'm new at this, or oh my gosh, it's been so hard, and wow, you seem like a real person. I'm so excited to finally sit across the table from a real person. I mean, what a nice thing to say to somebody, that you were feeling concerned, and wow, you actually look like your pictures. That was one of my very first online dates. The guy came in and said, and I had never heard that before. It was a new thing for me to learn that people did lie about their pictures.
That's the thing. I remember a quote from someone which said was like, when all else fails, try honesty. Because we have this bad tendency to make up all the stories and all the things we want to say about stuff without actually just saying the truth, what's real for us. Yeah. And being honest it can be a scary thing, saying, if I'm honest, I'm going to be so naked and vulnerable and won't be safe. It's like, no, being honest means you've got nothing to hide. And that means they can feel that. And that, again, less desperation, more authentic. And so they may come back and respond the same way, which would be even better. So why not be honest?
So that was finding out who you are and really writing it down and being really clear about the gifts that you have, that you're good with people, you're good with animals, you're good with style, you're good at your job. What are the things that make you valuable to just be sitting there and the other person gets to talk to you? Yeah. That'll help you feel more comfortable and less desperate. So if both sides actually did that and did it with, I'm sitting here in a comfortable place, not arrogant, not overblown, but just I'm a good person and I want to see if you're a good person too, that will absolutely short circuit the desperate part. Yeah. And then if you start saying, what is it that you want to know about the other person, that would be the next step. So Barry and I would love to talk to you about that one-on-one. And one of the ways to talk to me would be to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of the screen to the What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. Click on that. There's 10 brief questions about where you are and where you'd like to be. And then you'll have access to my online calendar that'll give you a chance to schedule a complimentary conversation with me at your convenience. You can also send me a personal email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how do people get a hold of you, Barry?
Similarly to Christine, I have a website. So under my name, which is easy to find. So barryselby.com is my site. And similarly, also at the top of the screen, there's a few other things I'll talk about later on at the end of the show. But at the top of the screen is a button you can click on, which is a kind of conversation, or it's a chat button. That's not an AI chat. That actually is a link to my calendar. So a real conversation. That's funny. Because that's the thing with chats. If you click on that button, it will take you to my online calendar with an application, with a questionnaire as well you fill out. And basically just so I get to know what you're about. So when we schedule the conversation, I can be there to give you resources and give you help. So you schedule your conversation, 20-minute complimentary, that's the word, conversation. And we can talk, see where you are, see what I can offer. If it lines up, great. If it doesn't, it's fine too. But definitely take that chance to find out, because you never know until you do. You can also send me an email at barryselby.com. If you have any questions, any thoughts, or other thoughts saying, do you want to send as well?
And now we're going to take a commercial break. We have a brand new sponsor, the National Widowers Organization, and they're going to tell you about the services they offer. And you'll also get to hear about this wonderful station that produces our podcast. And we'll be right back with Let's Talk Dating, talking about how to not appear desperate on a date. We'll be right back.
See you in a moment.
The National Widowers Organization is a men's grief network Our website serves as a virtual toolbox of free resources for men coping with the death of a loved one, whether a spouse, parent, a child, or lifelong friend. Our goal is to bring men together and arm them with as much information as possible to get through a devastating time in their lives. The NWO has a team of bereavement specialists and fellow widowers to help support you. You are not alone. For more info, go to nationalwidowers.org.
Hello, we're back with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and we're talking today about how to not appear desperate on a date.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about a lot of the causes that you could show up at a date feeling kind of desperate and looking desperate and acting desperate. And we've touched on how to start feeling more comfortable and confident in yourself so that you will feel more confident and comfortable when you're sitting there and not like this is the end all beat all and you'll just die if it doesn't work out. Because I think some of us women really can feel that way. It can feel very huge, can feel very like the world's going to end if we don't have a good date because we've had so many bad experiences. It's really quite sad.
Well, the thing is, there's this feeling that we're going to run out of options. Whether it's earlier about the chronological thing about time and that as well, but also, even though there's 8 billion people on the planet, we feel like there's no good ones left. So we feel like any chance we get is going to be the last one. So the feeling of desperation can show up pretty easily. The thing about it is, and I say simply, there's always a perfect match out there. Mm-hmm. You call yourselves a perfect catch is like that reason, because there is that one out there. So the underpinning point is that desperation isn't necessary because there is the one out there for you. The question is, how do you navigate to find that person, and how do you find that inside yourself? And so part of the work we talked about before the break is really the inner piece, which is really becoming self-sufficient and whole yourself. And we talked about this in many times in the previous episodes, but in this conversation, it's about how do you discard or shed that sense of desperation, and you own that you're going to find what you want, that you are worthy, that everything's going to line up. So it becomes easier for you to be comfortable in your own skin, because that's one of the things like moving forward more easily.
True. And so many people that I talk to when I'm working with them is they're putting off living their life and doing fun things until they get into the relationship. Mm-hmm. And the longer it goes on and the less things they're doing in their life that make them feel good, the more desperate they get, because it's like not having enough food or water because you're not going out to the well or going to the grocery store. You're waiting for somebody to show up and supply it for you. So Barry and I have certainly talked a lot about adding activities and interests to your life so that you're out interacting with people and being appreciated for the gifts that you have and learning new things and moving your body and doing things that help you feel happier as a person. Because one of the things that's really important when you're doing dates is not only to be interested in the other person, but be an interesting person. So when somebody says, tell me the kinds of things you're doing in your life, you can talk about, classes you're taking or volunteer work or something new that you learned or a trip that you just went on or you're planning, so that you look like an interesting, vital person, because we want to date people that are interesting and vital. So we really need to show up the same way too. So to go out and do things before you meet the person.
Yeah. The question is, do you have a life?
That's a good question.
Sitting there waiting for them to show up, because it is really that simple. And we talked in the show many times, having conversations about, when you go and have a social life, or you go and have a service life, or you go and do a sports life, or you do things in your life, you might meet people who may not be the one, but they might know somebody who is the one, sort of thing, where going out is the way to do things. So if you're sitting at home waiting by the door for that person to show up, and you're only going to use the dating apps to do it, you're reducing your odds to meet the person you want. And you're also going to be more desperate because there's less chance of showing up. So, yes, as Christine said, get out, have a life, do things in the world, have things that fill you up. And especially if you don't have anything that does it right now, what would you do to explore, to find out that will make you start feeling happy about your life, period? Maybe it's going to pottery classes, or going hiking, or going to volunteer with animals in an animal shelter. Do those things because, one, it makes you more interesting, as Christine said, but also you meet people there. You have a public experience. I mean, during the pandemic, there wasn't an issue, but now we've got freedom to go anywhere we want. Do things in life that fulfill you and fill you up, and also find things that you haven't done before that may be more exciting, more joyful, more fulfilling. Like Christine goes horse riding. It's not my thing. That's hers. Horse riding could be a major new experience for you that could change your life. And if it's something you already do, great. Because again, first of all, you start feeling whole and enjoying your life, because the other part about not being desperate is you enjoy your life as you are, as a single person. And so when you meet somebody, they become a bonus, an additive, not filling up some gap you think you're carrying around. I've said this before somewhere. Yes, exactly. So the key, again, is having a full life yourself, so you don't feel desperate, but also you have then more to share and more to express with somebody, and they might have new things to bring to your life as well.
So there's a little caveat to that you don't completely fill up your life, that you don't have room to go out and meet new people, to go on a date, and then ultimately be in a relationship with. I do find that sometimes those people aren't often the ones who will use the desperate word. It's generally the people that don't have as much going on in their lives that I hear the desperate word more often.
Yeah.
So how else can you not feel desperate? Be prepared with some interesting things to talk about. Jane Goodall just died. I mean, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be interesting to know if they're interested in animals, or they've ever been to where she used to go be with the chimpanzees, or had they ever heard her speak or read any of her books or saw the documentary? I mean, that would be such a timely thing to talk about with somebody new, to find out if they're interested at all, which isn't necessarily a negative, but maybe they're interested that you know so much about it. So think of things that are happening in the world that are lovely subjects and safe subjects, because there's lots that we wouldn't necessarily want to talk about, certainly on a first meeting, but that gets a chance to help you feel engaged. I think that's the other part where we can feel desperate and appear desperate because we're not engaging enough in our life, and certainly with the people across the table from us. I think both sides keep depending on the other person to carry the date, they were in a very good conversation. Well, how were you? Did you ask interesting questions that weren't just a yes or no answer? Did you share things about yourself and then ask them the same thing? I mean, there are some people who aren't very good at conversation, which doesn't mean they're a bad person. But as the person who's doing the complaining, I think you need to take more of the onus on yourself to see if you can do 65% to keep it going. If anything, you've just learned how good you are at it, and you've practiced a lot, and maybe you've discovered they're not your person. But please stop sitting back waiting for the other person to do all the work.
Yeah, that is such a key to having successful dates, period, and conversations in general, not just in a relationship, but conversations in general. It is interesting, and speaking from personal experience, I spend a lot of my time observing people, and being a witness is kind of my thing. That's one of the things I love about people's way of being and sort of stuff too. But it's interesting to switch when I go into conversation with people, how it just totally transforms, and I become so in the conversation, which I love. But some people, when they're on dates, are so busy like witnessing and observing what's going on, they forget to talk. So yeah, what you said is so true. How can you be more participatory and bring or contribute 65% of the conversation, because that means you're over halfway. And if they come over halfway too, that's a great conversation. And if you're going to be spending the time with somebody on a date that isn't your one, do you want to suffer through the whole thing, or do you want to actually have some fun and conversation? You might discover, because the other part also, and this is the one thing that's challenging, is we keep looking, well, maybe it's just for men that we do this, we look through the lens of one thing at a time. So when we see this person, they're not a match for us. But the thing is, you have to remember, what if they know somebody, if their housemate or their neighbor or their whatever is the perfect person for you? So first of all, don't burn bridges because you never know. But secondly, be seen by the other person as you are, because they may go, wow, you're so great. You're not what I want, but I know somebody who'll be a good match for you. You never know.
Never know. And I have said consistently that I have never had a boring first date, even if I didn't want to see them a second time, because I ask interested questions and I share interesting things about me. So there's always a lively conversation. I've never not had one, even with people who were kind of a challenge for that. And I just kept honing my skills of how to have a good conversation with somebody. So there's nothing wasted. And that helps you get out of yourself. Because I think a lot of the desperation is we're so inner focused that if you focus on, can I make this person be a little more at ease? How can I find out something more about them to really verify that, yeah, they're not my person? But it's a fun thing to do that's a much more outward thinking.
Yeah. I mean, going on dates can be one of the most enjoyable expressions, even if it doesn't mean the second date happens. But most people tend to go in there with it's either a win column or a lose column. And it's like, this is the one, or forget it, I'm moving on. But what if, first of all, we talked about a lot about in our shows about how you learn and you grow through your different dating experience anyway. But why not choose every time you meet somebody as an opportunity to, one, reduce your feelings of desperation, because the other part too is you can practice. If this isn't the right date, practice all the skills that you want to have when you're in the right date. It's the thing is, the sense of that if you're waiting for the right one to show up, when they show up, you're tongue-tied because you don't know how to speak to them. That doesn't work. So practicing your conversational skills, practicing deep thoughts and ideas, having presence of mind when you're with that person, so that, yes, they may leave impressed, but it's not about them, it's about you. You become more comfortable speaking when you're meeting somebody new. So your dating experience can transform. So when you do meet the one, you're in your best place to meet them. So why not use that time wisely?
That's such good advice, Barry. Thank you. Practice, practice, practice.
Yep.
So I will also say, if you are just in the doldrums and you're feeling very desperate and you're feeling very lonely, so that's how you're going to show up on a date, take a break. Take a break. Stop. Get off the apps.
Yeah.
Just go do something. Don't just sit home. Go do something fun. Go take a line dancing class, or join a swimming class, or join a book club. Do something that's only just women or only just men, and forget the other half of the world for a moment, for a month or two. Because going and doing things without dating in mind can really help you switch over from that desperate feeling, so that when you don't feel that way, you won't appear that way on a date. So go do things that are fun, that don't have anything to do with dating. Just take a break. As a dating coach, that's some of the best advice I've given people. Just take a break. We can still keep talking about how do you get ready to go back to dating. I'm happy to do that. Barry does that a lot too. So take a break. We're okay with you taking a break. Yeah, if it's going to help you feel better inside, yeah.
And that is really the understanding, is that life is going to be happening for you if you want to use it that way. Yeah. And yeah, that is the challenge, is that there is a certain, and it's probably the way the dating apps are built, is that they're designed to be addictive. And so the constant swiping is almost part of the pattern. So recognize also, and it's interesting about this piece, yes, take a break from the dating apps, get out in the world, do your own thing, be around people you like. Men go out and play sports with some other men, do things that are enjoyable, whatever works for you, absolutely. But the other side is, when you meet the right person, you won't be using the dating apps anyway. So either way, you won't be using the dating app. So in a way, you're practicing being away from the dating apps when you're not doing anything. Same as when you meet somebody, you'll be off the dating apps too. So there's a win both ways. But the thing I wanted to just say is, ideally, when you're dating, your focus is to meet a partner that will be the one you want to be long term with. So if you're just dating to date, so be it. This show does probably a match for you, because you're going to date anyway, you don't care. But if you're really focusing on what you really want to have, then make your dating important enough so that you can meet that person. And so we're talking about here, and we're talking about other episodes. These are tools that will help you get that relationship you really want. But if you don't take the lessons to heart and you don't do the things that make life easier, and like when you're desperation on the dates, if you don't work through that and work with that, you're going to meet the person you want. So and I'm being serious at this moment, but the recognition is that dating can be a means to an end when it's done well and used the right way. The problem is that we weren't taught this in high school, and there's no in the dating apps, no advice on how to do a date. So the dating apps are just providing the opportunities. You got to do the work to be ready for those opportunities.
Yes, Barry and I are both very clear that nobody just knows how to date, which is why we're happy to teach people, because you're not taught. Fall into it when you're growing up and you're surrounded by all these people that are in your age group and also looking to be together.
Right.
Now we're all kind of flapping in the wind. So if you give yourself grace about, oh, I don't know how to do this, like you didn't know how to do your job or drive a car or use your phone, somebody had to teach you. That's where Barry and I come in. We're happy to teach you how to do this so that there's no reason for you to ever feel desperate and then not appear desperate when you're on a date, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So if you'd like some of that, Barry and I'd be happy to help you. So I'm going to mention my website again, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Speaking to me is easy. Go to the middle of the page to the What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. Click on that. It will send you to my online calendar. You can schedule a conversation that's complimentary with me at your convenience. And you can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. While you're visiting my homepage, I'd love for you to join my mailing list. You'll get a repeat of the podcast that we do every week and also stay up on things that I'm doing and offering. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see all my social media icons of Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Twitter and YouTube and
Instagram.
Thank you. And then YouTube has all the archive of over 250 podcasts that Barry and I have done. Also, I'd like to invite you at the very top of my webpage is my free ebook on dating. It's full of dating advice. And I just love to hear from you what was helpful. And if there's something I missed, I'd love to do a 2.0. I've been getting some really great suggestions.
Nice.
I know, it's really fun. So tell people how to reach you, Barry.
As mentioned at the halfway point, and as similar to Christine, I have a website again. My site is my name, which is barryselby.com. And as I said, also at the beginning, at the top of the screen, there's a button you click on to get in a conversation with me through my calendar, get a questionnaire, etc., etc. But there's also two other things on the homepage you might want to check out. At the bottom of the homepage is a way you drop into my email list. So you can just subscribe to my audience, and same as Christine, I send out a replay of the show, and then also things I'm working on and sharing. You want to find out more about those. In the middle of the screen is the first of my two assessments, the quizzes that I created. The first one is the relationship readiness assessment, as in, are you ready to date? Are you ready to go on a relationship? Take the quiz and find out. You can go directly to it by typing in the web address, which is barryselby.com/quiz, or again, the button in the middle of the screen. The second quiz, which is not clickable at this point, you have to actually put in the web address, which is barryselby.com/self-quiz. And you may have guessed by that, that's a self-assessment. Basically, it's like, not so much are you ready for a relationship, but are you ready? But where's the relationship with yourself standing? Are you really supporting yourself? Do you feel approving of yourself? Do you have self-confidence, self-trust, all these different things? So take the self-assessment quiz. It will provide you a downloadable PDF explaining all the different pieces that you're working on, what you can do better on, where you can improve. But also you'll navigate and see what maybe you're missing in your own self-relationship that's in the way of you dating in the world. So both quizzes will help you massively get ready for a relationship and dating and everything else. Recommend those quizzes. Also, my website is my book, which is on the book page of my site, obviously. You can go directly to that if you want to, by barryselby.com/book. But through the navigation, you get there. You can get the physical book, the Kindle book, or the PDF version of it as you want. And at the top of the screen on that page is an audio playback of a 12, 13 minute, I can't remember how long it is now, but an audio interview, two co-hosts that sound like NPR hosts, who basically talk about the book, but it's all AI generated, but it's really fun and it's really accurate because I gave them my book to look at. So if you want to check out my book before you buy it, listen to the audio and you get a good idea what my book's about. You can find me on social media under my name, Barry Selby, on most social media platforms. So definitely on YouTube, where also the replays of this show live, and also on Facebook and LinkedIn, on Pinterest and Blue Sky. And then on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby, because my accounts get changed. And that's where you find me.
So we would be so happy if you wanted to ever watch us live. We're here at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern on StreamYard. And then you can also watch us on a replay on YouTube and Roku. If you'd like to take us portable wherever you're going, they can do that too, huh, Barry?
Yes, because our podcast is not only video, it's also audio, of course. But so with audio, our podcast is now put up on the podcast platform. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the different podcast platforms you listen to. You can find all 250 plus episodes of our show in audio format, so you can take us with you wherever you go. So if you don't watch our pretty faces on YouTube, you can definitely listen to our lovely voice. Whether you're hiking or driving or going to the gym, whatever you're doing, you can listen to our shows and get tuned up and ready for your next date, next relationship. So definitely listen to us and let us know how you feel. You know, if you like our show, share it with your friends, subscribe, keep track of us, and you get new episodes when they drop.
Yes, people are really taking us out and about with them. And I said, I know you miss Barry's glasses and my hats, but it makes us more portable, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So we'll be back next week with another interesting subject about dating and relationships. See you soon.
See you then. Take care of yourselves.
Bye for now.
Bye.